My name is James, and I come to you today to talk about my global warming slash climate change documentary and the effects of global warming and what we can do to stop it, or what will happen if we don't stop it. So, here's my presentation.
Jay, introduce yourself first.
You ready?
Uh-huh.
Right now. Good morning. My name is Brian Thomas. I am a teacher at South Atlanta High School.
Alright. So, how do you feel about climate change?
My thoughts on climate change is it's a real phenomenon. I think that as we build more and more larger vehicles, and those vehicles emit all types of gases into the atmosphere, and the larger need for larger companies that emit gas in the atmosphere will probably be one of the biggest contributors to climate change.
Change could be irreversible.
Rising sea levels already altering this nation's coast.
China's capital is choking in its worst pollution of the year.
5% of species will become
Sea
extinct.
levels rising, glaciers melting.
Hey, Bill Nye here for the Emoji Science Lab. This episode, climate change. Climate change is a real deal, everybody, and here's why. If we had some extraordinary car on some extraordinary highway and we could drive somehow straight up for an hour at highway speed, we'd be in outer space. It's right there. The atmosphere is really thin. Now, back in 1750, there were about 1.5 billion people in the world. Well, today there's 7.2 going on 7.3 billion people. Well, that's the problem. There's billions of people breathing and burning the same thin atmosphere. Back in 1750, when James Watt created the first workable steam engine, there were about 250 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the world's atmosphere. Carbon dioxide's good. It holds in heat, keeps our Earth toasty and warm for us humans. But now, there are over 400 parts per million. It's the speed, it's the rate that we're changing things that's causing all this trouble. Climate is changing, and it's because you and I are living here. Now, what should we do? Run in circles screaming? Ah! No! Let's get to work. Let's use electricity. We can generate it renewably from wind and solar. And then the key is we have to move it around the world through cool new transmission lines that someone's going to invent and develop and fund and distribute. And then, if we had a better battery, a better system of battery, a better scheme of electrical energy storage, we could, dare I say it, change the world.
Simple explanation of climate change based on an article in the New York Times. The average temperature on the surface of the planet has already increased 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880, which may not seem like much, but think about it this way. The heat from human emissions is roughly equal to 400,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs exploding across the planet every single day. Future generations are in big trouble, but for now, it'll gradually continue to get warmer and storms will grow more intense, with longer periods of drought in between. But longer term, if emissions continue to rise unchecked, the climate disasters will be so severe they will destabilize entire nations, send millions of refugees across borders, cause widespread extinction of most species on Earth, and melt the polar ice caps, leaving most of the world's coastal cities several feet underwater. All this could take centuries, but something like the sudden collapse of agriculture would trigger immediate chaos in society. Best case is we get our act together and begin to rapidly bring emission levels down. Meanwhile, Earth turns out to be less sensitive to greenhouse gases than we currently believe, plants and animals adapt quickly, and major technological breakthroughs help society limit emissions.
What this means is for future generations, places on Earth would most likely be underwater or too hot to stay. So we have to start doing stuff now.
99.9% of the world's scientists tell us that carbon dioxide emissions from our cars, planes, trains, factories, everything we burn fossil fuels to power, are causing the Earth to get hotter. Because they're sending CO2 up into our atmosphere faster than the world's plants can absorb it. Still, I can understand why people want to believe climate change isn't real or that we are not causing it. I get it. There are vast sections of America and the rest of the world that haven't really felt the impact yet. Florida, however, is not one of them. Florida is more vulnerable to climate change-related disaster than any other place in America because it's surrounded by seas that are rising as the world heats up. Consider these stats. 75% of Florida's nearly 20 million residents live in coastal counties that may be partially submerged by the end of this century. A 6.6-foot rise, which some climate experts predict is a plausible or even modest forecast, could sink as much as 4/5 of Florida's economy. The ocean is rising because it's expanding. Water expands when it gets warm. You can try it. Get a glass, or better yet, a flask of water, and mark the water level. Now heat it up in your microwave oven. Look, the water level went up. This mark is 6 feet above sea level. When the ocean rises just this much, this whole area will be underwater. And not just this area, that area. That's Miami. Billions of dollars, millions of people are going to have to move.
Great changes occurring on the planet.
Everything happened so fast.
There's creeks dried up that have never dried up in my lifetime.
We got a forest here that's already at the edge.
We're going into uncharted territory.
Our planet is at a crossroads. Global warming isn't out of control, but it soon could be. The warning signs are all around us. This is the challenge of climate change. What can we do about global warming? What will happen to the Earth if we don't? The temperature is rising. Each degree is critical.
Just 1 degree or so of
1 degree warmer than they should. Bump it up 2 degrees.
3 degrees. Threshold is about 3 degrees of global warming.
3 to 4 degrees of warming.
You're starting to look at 4 degrees.
3 degrees, 4 degrees, 5 degrees.
6 degrees is almost unimaginable.